This is the coronal section. You notice that this is the front of the brain. That is the corpus callosum. Then you have the lateral ventricles where you have the septum pellucidum. As we discussed that before, septum pellucidum, you cannot see that in the posterior horn of the lateral ventricle. So this is the anterior horns of the lateral ventricles, septum pellucidum. Here is the corpus callosum that makes the angle that goes to the front and makes the rostrum right here. This is the part of the rostrum of the corpus callosum. That is part of the genio right here. And then from here, it goes back and makes the body. As we discussed that before, the lateral side of the lateral ventricles, in this section, you have the head of the caudate nucleus, which is in the front. Then you will notice that you have part of the internal capsule right here, and you have the putamen right here. And you will notice that putamen and caudate nucleus, actually they're one structure. That the internal capsule comes here and separates the two. Caudate nucleus and putamen, they have similar function and they are the same structure, and internal capsule is just getting into and cut this structure into two parts. Then we go a little bit farther back, and this is going to be the section that we have. That's the continuation of the other one. Then again, you have the corpus callosum, septum pellucidum, and then lateral ventricle is going to go all the way back toward the caudal. And here you have the rostrum of the corpus callosum. This is not the third ventricle. This is still outside of the brain, and therefore it is not going to be the diencephalon. This is still part of the telencephalon. This is the caudate nucleus right here. This is the internal capsule, and this is the putamen. You do not see the globus pallidus, because the putamen is larger and is going to be acting like a shell and is going to cover the globus pallidus. So you may see the putamen without the globus pallidus, like this section. We do not have the globus pallidus in this section. But if I turn around and go a little bit farther caudally, you will notice that here you have the third ventricle as we have. This is the lateral ventricles. Here's the corpus callosum, septum pellucidum, fornix. And you will notice that here is the interventricular foramen Monroe that's going to connect the lateral ventricle to the third ventricle. Here is the genio of the fornix, and in this one becomes the columns of the fornix, which are heading toward the mammillary body. Fornix starts from the temporal lobe, from the hippocampus, and it's going to be ending, one of the terminal area is going to be the mammillary body in the diencephalon, which are acting as part of the paper circuit, which we're going to talk about at a later time, for the memory function. Here is going to be the third ventricle. This is still in more anterior part, and here is going to be the part of the thalamus. Here is part of the hypothalamic sulcus, and this is going to be the hypothalamus. And you can see that you have the optic tracts right here, optic chiasm right here, and this area right here. As we look at that in the whole brain, on the base of the brain, that's the tuberous area. So this is the third ventricle at this area. As we discussed that, here is the putamen. We get toward the caudal, and now we have this structure right here, which is the globus pallidus. That is paler structure, and usually you can see the two parts of the globus pallidus. One is the external, one is the internal of the globus pallidus. Then you have the putamen. This part right here is the internal capsule. Here is the external capsule. Here's the extreme capsule right here. Between the two is the claustrum. Now we're going to go a little bit back, and here is the next set of the section that we need to study. Again, we are going back to the back of the thalamus. This becomes the pulvinar. This is still the third ventricle right here. This part right here is part of the habenulal nucleus. The thing is that this hole right here is representing the cerebrospinous. The top of that is going to be the tectum. This part is closer to the encephalon. Therefore, this is the superior colliculi, and that is going to be starting to form. And this is going to be the habenulal nucleus, where you're going to have the pineal gland is going to be approaching up down here, which is being cut off. Habenulal nucleus right here. But maybe we can see the posterior commissure on the other side. Maybe, maybe not. And Actually, a thing is being cut off. This is the interthalamic adhesion right here, but we cannot see that on this section. And here we're going to go down right here. This is still part of the internal capsule right here. Then you go to the midbrain, and this section is not quite preserved. But this is right here are the hippocampal structures. This is the hippocampus. This is the hippocampus. This white matter right here is going to be the beginning of the fornix, which is called the fimbria. As we discussed that before, we're going to be still finding the tail of the caudate nucleus on this side right here, and the caudate nucleus is going to extend. This is still the lateral ventricles. Anytime that you're going to see the lateral ventricles, we need to find the caudate nucleus. That's the caudate nucleus right here. That's the caudate nucleus right here. And we're going to go a little bit back, and you will notice that this is the back of the lateral ventricles. Septum pellucidum is not seen. Here is the corpus callosum right here, and it's going to make a loop, and this is part of the corpus callosum right here. This is the splenium of the corpus callosum. This is the back of the brain, and here you still might find right here, this is still not in most posterior horn of the lateral ventricle, because you still have some of the caudate nucleus right here, and the caudate nucleus does not get to the occipital lobe. It will not. And so we have the corpus callosum right here that is going to go down, and if you look at the mesoidal fissure, the sagittal fissure right here, and you will notice that the deep to the sagittal fissure you have the corpus callosum, and then you have the vasculature area that is going to come and join each other, and this arterial system, they are part of the anterior cerebral artery.